For 40 years, a man danced alone. Every Thursday, after the town had folded itself into sleep, he climbed the narrow stairs above the bakery, unlocked the old dance hall, and set a single worn record turning. And then he danced. Across the empty floor, slow and certain, his arms held just so, as if someone he loved were resting inside them. No one watched, no one knew the steps but him, and in all those years, he never once explained. To understand why, you have to go back to when he was young, so young and so clumsy that he once tripped over nothing at all, crossing an empty room. He was not a graceful boy, he had large hands that never knew where to be, and a quietness people mistook for dullness. But he noticed things, and the thing he noticed most was the girl who sold flowers at the corner of the square. She had a laugh like a window thrown open. She wore a different ribbon each day, and she always saved the bruised blooms, the ones no one would buy, and gave them away to children and old men, as if beauty that was a little broken still deserved a home. He loved her the way shy people love, completely, silently, from across a square. One summer evening, the town held a dance in the square, and the boy stood pressed against the wall, watching the lanterns sway and the couples turn, certain he would never be one of them. She found him there. She did not laugh at him. She tilted her head, kind as morning, and said, "When you've learned to dance, come and find me." She meant nothing by it. It was a passing kindness, the sort a warm person scatters without counting. By the next song, she had already turned away. But the boy carried those words out of the square like a man carrying water in his hands. Careful, afraid to spill a drop. He decided that night that he would learn. He left for the city to find work, the way young men did then, and in the stolen hours after his shifts, he found a dance teacher, an old man with a cane and impossible patience, who charged almost nothing and asked no questions. It took a year before the boy stopped counting under his breath, 2 years before his feet forgot to be afraid, 3 before the steps lived in his body the way breath does. He learned one dance above all the others. The slow waltz the band had been playing that summer night, the one he had watched her sway to alone. He practiced it until he could have danced it in his sleep, until he could feel, against his empty arms, exactly where she would be. And when at last he was ready, when the clumsy boy had become a man who moved like water, he went home to find her. The flower stall was still on the corner, but a different girl stood behind it. The woman he loved had married 2 summers before. She had moved to a town a half-day's ride away. She had children now, they said, and a husband who was good to her, and she was happy. He stood in the square for a long time. He did not go and find her. He did not knock on a stranger's door to say, I learned it all. I did the only thing you ever asked of me," because she had not asked it. He understood that now. She had given him a kind sentence on a summer night, and he had spent 3 years building his whole heart around it. The promise had only ever existed in him. He went home. He kept the shoes. And the following Thursday, he found the old hall above the bakery standing empty, its floor gone gray with dust, and he asked the baker for the key. That was how it began. Week after week, year after year, he danced. Not waiting, he was long past waiting. He knew she would never climb those stairs. He danced because the dancing had become something else by then. It had become the shape his tenderness took when it had nowhere else to go. The town came to know him as the man who danced alone, and they were gentle about it the way small towns can be gentle about their strange and harmless souls. Children dared each other to peek through the keyhole. Mothers hushed them. "Leave him be," they said. Everyone has their candle. He grew older. His hair went white. His large hands grew spotted and slow. But on Thursdays, when the record turned, the years fell away, and he was graceful for no one, in an empty room, above a sleeping town. He might have danced like that until the end, and no one would ever have known the why of it. But one autumn, a widow came to live in the rooms beside the bakery, newly alone, far from where she'd buried her husband, a stranger to the town and to herself. She heard the music come up through her floor each Thursday, faint, old, unbearably tender. For weeks she only listened. Then one night she climbed the stairs and stood in the doorway and watched an old man dance with someone who was not there. When the record ended, she did not pretend she hadn't seen. She said softly, "You dance beautifully. Who taught you?" It was the first time in 40 years that anyone had asked. The old man stood in the silence for a moment, and then, the only time he ever said it aloud, to anyone, he answered, "Someone who never knew she did." The widow understood. People who have loved and lost always understand more than they're told. She did not say she was sorry. She did not say anything at all. She only crossed the dusty floor and lifted her hand and waited. He looked at her hand for a long time, and then he took it. He set the record turning once more, and the two of them danced, slowly, carefully, two old people in an empty hall, neither one replacing anyone, neither one pretending the ache was gone. But the steps were not wasted. That was the thing he understood, at last, turning beneath the bare light bulb with a stranger in his arms. He had not learned to dance for a girl who never came. He had learned to dance, and the learning had quietly made him into a man who could hold the whole grieving world a little more gently. The promise had been imaginary. The tenderness had been real. And in the end, the dance found the hands it had always been meant for. Just not the ones he'd been counting under his breath all those years ago. Some of us learn a whole language of love for someone who will never hear it. And then, on some quiet Thursday we never saw coming, someone climbs the stairs. The dance was never wasted. It was only waiting for a pair of hands that could finally hold it.